to the entertainer talking sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video as the New York Giants continue to fill up the coaching staff. Of course, they've now added a defensive coordinator that is formerly of the Miami Dolphins yesterday. They've retained the wide receivers coach. They've retained the special teams coach. And Joe Judge now, obviously, the main guy that he's going to be looking for is the offensive coordinator. And that is by far the most important position in the coaching staff, in my opinion, as far as the Giants go. Being that you have Daniel Jones as your quarterback, you want to make sure this guy has a great second season after his rookie year. A lot of promising stuff in his rookie year, but it's going to be a brand new playbook, and you want to be a guy that can teach. That is something that he said throughout his entire press conference, and I did a lot of digging now on John Defillippo, who actually had a really good reputation as a quarterback guy. He had great success with the Philadelphia Eagles. He had some success early in his career. We're going to go over all that, but he was widely credited with the development of Carson Wentz and then Nick Foles when they won the Super Bowl in the 2018 playoffs, which is why he got a coordinator job with Minnesota and then with the Jacksonville Jaguars because Foles came over there. But I'm going to go into the reasons why he was fired. And I don't necessarily think Defillippo would be the greatest offensive coordinator hire. I don't know if he would take a quarterback's coach job, but he might have to, being that he's been laid off now 2 straight years as a quarterback coach with 2 separate organizations over a 1-year span. And I think Defillippo would make a ton of sense as a quarterback's coach. He's a former quarterback. He's been a quarterback coach throughout his entire career. That's what he's known as. And like I said, he is a teacher. When you see some of these quotes, you're going to say, that sounds like Joe Judge. Now, by no means am I saying that he's going to get the job. There's been no rumors about this, but he got fired today, and I saw I know him, obviously, from the Philadelphia Eagles. I know that he had a good reputation, and he's an offensive coordinator, and we're looking for offensive minds, and I think he's a guy that the New York Giants should at least consider. I don't know if they're going to. Like I said, there's been no rumors. We've heard rumors about Freddie Kitchens, but Defillippo, he's young. He kind of fits the mold of the coaching staff. He's 40 years old, and I think he makes sense. I really do. If you really look at him, specifically as a quarterback's coach, I would really like him on here at that position. But let's take a quick look at his resume. That's what I want to do first with Defillippo, and then we'll get into all the rest. Here's his resume. He started in 2000. Like I said, he played quarterback. He started in 2000 as a coach with Fordham as a quarterback's coach. Then went to Notre Dame for 2 years as a graduate assistant. Then went to Columbia, again, for 2 years as a quarterback's coach. Then he had some time with the New York Giants. So there's a little history there. He was the offensive quality control coach from 2005 to 2006. Then he went to the Raiders as a quarterback coach from 2007 to 2008. Went to the Jets, 2009. Same position. Went back to college, San Jose State, because he had he got the offensive coordinator role there as well. So he started to move up. Got his first chance as an OC in college in 2011. Came back to the NFL with the Raiders for 3 years as a QB coach, 2012 to 2014. Then he went to the Cleveland Browns in 2015 as their offensive coordinator. That was his first opportunity as a NFL OC. The Cleveland Browns cleaned house there, so he got fired, which is something very common when you fire your head coach after just 1 year. And from what I read, he actually did a pretty decent job, and a lot of Browns fans actually liked him, even though the end-of-the-year stats didn't back it up. He had Josh McCown as his quarterback. There were a lot of injuries to that offense, but over the first half of the season, when they were relatively healthy, the defense ranked right around the middle of the league for a team that didn't have a lot of talent. Isaiah Crowell had a strong year from what I read. Duke Johnson had a strong year for the first half. So that's why people started to like him in the NFL as an offensive mind. He then went to the Eagles, and that's where he really shined as the quarterback's coach. For 2 years, they won the Super Bowl. The second year, he was there as the QB coach. Obviously, Carson Wentz took a huge leap over his first 2 years there. That's probably primarily why he was hired. Carson Wentz was the MVP of the league. For the first 13 games of the year, and then obviously he went down, and Nick Foles, took over and did a great job there, won a Super Bowl for them. But, that's why he got another OC job with the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, that was vacated by Pat Shurmur, who took the New York Giants job, and I'm going to get into exactly why he was let go there. And then in 2019 with the Jaguars, he only for 1 year. So this guy has had 3 different offensive coordinator positions over a 6-year span, 5 or 6 year span in the NFL, and he's only retained them for 1 year each. So that's pretty telling. Now, in fairness, the first one, from what I read, had more to do with the Cleveland Browns getting rid of their head coach and starting from scratch. The last two, there were legitimate reasons as to why they moved on. He didn't get along with Zimmer with the Minnesota Vikings, and the Jaguars felt, I think it was similar things there, where they felt like the offense wasn't balanced enough. They didn't have good red zone efficiency, but I do think that there's some reasoning for that. Nick Foles, they brought in to be the quarterback, and that's a big reason why they hired him to be the offensive coordinator. Nick Foles and him had a lot of success together. Nick Foles got hurt very early in the season. He missed like 10 or 11 games, and credit to Defillippo, and I'm going to go over the numbers. Gardner Minshew, a guy that was a 6th-round draft pick, who most people probably thought would never be a starting quarterback in the NFL, had a hell of a rookie year, with Defillippo. So his history there with a Minshew, with what he did with Wentz, to me shows that at least he could make a really good quarterbacks coach if he would take the position with the New York Giants as he tries to establish himself as another potential offensive coordinator somewhere else. Would I hire him as the OC? He wouldn't be my first choice. I would understand the hire based on the fact that this guy clearly has talent. A lot of teams have been willing to give him opportunities here. He's had 3 opportunities as an OC in 5 years. So we'll have to wait and see. But he's certainly, you look everywhere he's ever been, he's been a quarterback coach. So he's certainly known as a quarterback guy, which is something the New York Giants need to be looking at. Would love him as the QB coach, and maybe somebody else as the OC. But, I want to go over his resume there. Also read that the Eagles are potentially interested possibly could be interested in bringing him back, as he had a lot of success there. And here we go. Defillippo is on. This is some quotes I brought, pulled out of some articles about Defillippo's coaching style, things like that. Defillippo is on the same page. When asked about how he measures his success as a coach, with the Eagles, Defillippo recentered the statement around what it means to be a coach, arguing, when I get to watch Carson Wentz on tape, take something from the meeting room to the field that we have had talked about, that gives you as a teacher. That's what we are as coaches. We're teachers. That gives you a lot of sense of pride in terms of what you're doing. And what was the word that was emphasized with our new head coach, Joe Judge? He wants teachers. He wants guys that are good teachers, okay? So that was a quote that I pulled out in the same exact article. Well, first I want to go over this. This is why he was fired with the Minnesota Vikings. The former Eagles quarterback coach, pegged by many in the media as the favorite for a head coaching gig in 2019, had become the focal point of a rampant criticism for his refusal to embrace the run and for the overall ineffectiveness of the offense. Last night's loss to the Seahawks became the low point of the 2017 NFC finalists, talking about the Minnesota Vikings. Now, 2 years after a Monday night debacle in Chicago resulted in the abrupt departure of former offensive coordinator Norv Turner, Defillippo is out. So that's why he got fired. Obviously, they didn't agree with his offensive philosophy. The year before, Pat Shurmur actually had a near 50-50 with the run, and they probably thought he got too far away from that, and that's why he was let go in Minnesota, and it's something that I do not want to see here with the New York Giants. So, like I said, he may not be the best fit for an OC, but could be a very strong quarterback coach. And here is the reasoning why he was released by the Jaguars, or at least, one of the reasons. Under Defillippo, the Jaguars ranked 20th in total offense and 26th in scoring. In red zone scoring percentage for touchdowns, the Jaguars ranked 31st. But in fairness, it's not like they had a ton of weapons. You had a backup quarterback who was a 6th-round pick in Gardner Minshew, and you look at the numbers that Minshew put up, it's pretty strong. It's a lot more than what you should have expected. So at least from a quarterback standpoint, Defillippo did a really good job with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Maybe not as an overall offensive coordinator. These were Minshew's stats. 6th-round pick. And he didn't play the full season. 3,271 yards, 21 touchdowns with a 91 QB rating. So he was strong there, no doubt about it, for the Jaguars. He's been considered as one of the front runners for the Rookie of the Year. And then finally, this was the other quote I wanted to pull up about his ability to teach. Those nuggets are information and illustrative of how he thinks. Phrases like the least defended part of the field, the back of the end zone, let us know where he wants to attack. But they only give us part of the picture of him as a coach. What's more appealing about Defillippo is his ability to teach. Head coach Mike Zimmer consistently stresses how central the element of teaching is to coaching, and it has formed the core of his team-building strategy. In his first press conference with the Vikings, Zimmer isolated the ability to teach, not innovation, not pedigree, not total football knowledge, when looking for a football coach. I mean, guys, that's almost verbatim of what Joe Judge has said with the New York Giants since he has taken that job. That's what he's talked about. He wants teachers. He wants guys that could get the most out of their players. Now, the fact that this guy has not been able to keep an offensive coordinator job, one, not his fault, the other two seemingly are with the Jaguars. They didn't like the balance of the offense. It seemed to be the same way with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, you can make excuses with the quarterback situation. But I don't know if he'd be the best OC, if I'm being completely honest. Seems like maybe he was a little bit too pass-happy. Maybe he learns from his mistakes, being that you have a Saquon Barkley on the roster. Who knows? But I don't know if I'd want him to be the OC, but I think he's definitely somebody I would strongly consider bringing in here as a quarterback's coach, for sure. And I maybe be an OC somewhere else where he doesn't call the plays, because it seems like he screws up there, but it won't be here with the Giants. Obviously, Joe Judge has said he wants his offensive coordinators to call the plays. He wants to oversee it. If he comes on the New York Giants, I would guess it would be as a quarterback coach, not as an offensive coordinator. Do I expect him to come here? Probably not. Do I think the Giants should consider him in some capacity? Absolutely. I think he definitely has a lot of strengths. I think he's shown that, the ability to mold young quarterbacks, like he did with the Carson Wentz his first 2 years in the league, like he did this year with a Gardner Minshew. But we'll see if the Giants even consider this guy as a potential coordinator. I haven't heard his name. Obviously, he was just fired, and it was a surprise firing by many due to the fact that a lot of people thought the defensive coordinator was more on the hot seat than the OC. But the Jaguars decided to move on. It doesn't seem like he's stubborn. He's set in his ways, from what I've gathered from a lot of things. But we'll see if the Giants do consider him. I don't think it would be the worst idea as a quarterback coach. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.